A very, very good afternoon. I got the music timing right. It is the first time that has ever happened. I wanted to squeeze in part 3 of the council analysis because I know we're running out of time before Sunday evening's final transmission. I know there's only a few of us watching. I think there's about 20, 25 of us watching. Maybe it'll get higher, but I'm sure people will catch up as and when they can and are able to. But I'll run out of time and I won't get part 3, the final part, done of the analysis of the council meeting otherwise. The Reverend Jean Hurlston, in fact I think her title's more than that now. I'll just find it for you. Has been causing issues amongst a number of you for some time. It's the Reverend Canon Jean Hurlston, to give her full title. She sits at the top table with the corrupt councillors and the council officials endorsing, giving religious endorsement. It is not normal for someone like that to sit at the top table. First of all, saying prayers, no one's got a problem with anyone saying prayers at the beginning of a meeting. So that's not the issue. It's the fact that she continues to sit there whilst all this is played out. Remember, she continued to sit there whilst children were screaming about how they were gang raped, how the council blocked the investigations. And for the church, it's not a good look. For the church that's been exposed for its own role in covering up child abuse, it's not a good look. Now, I know a number of you have raised concerns with the diocese. I know a number of you have had meetings with senior members in the church. And I also know that when I first saw her, where she had the audacity to stand up and do a prayer to defend the council, that the best part of 100 people turned their backs on a reverend doing prayers because of the nature of the prayers. Now, this woman's behaviour is atrocious. There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever. And this is what she looks like. This is a Right Reverend Canon Jean Hurlston. She's the Dean of Oldham. This is who she is. Clear Labour Party links, by the way. Clear long-standing Labour Party links, haven't you, Jean? Or deny him. If I've got it wrong, Jean, deny it. But my understanding is clear historical Labour Party links. And prior to her becoming the mayor's chaplain, or whatever the terminology is, she was, or is, the founder of Oldham Street Angels. I have no doubt that they do good work. But again, political. Engaged with Arood Shah, endorsing Arood Shah, knowing everything we know about Arood Shah when she was leader of Oldham Council. Her organisation is being pictured with Arood Shah, and this is what she had to say at the time. We are delighted to welcome Councillor Shah to see our organisation on Saturday night. And of course, they've received funding from various public sources. It's all very dodgy. And this reverend doing what she's done is, I find really, and I'll just bring it up. Just give me 1 second before we get on with the meeting. Now, why am I talking about this? It's because you guys have been raising it with me. I'm finding it very uncomfortable that a member of the clergy is doing this. Here we go. Let me bring this up.
Humility, respect.
This is her prayer.
Humility, respect, and an eagerness to learn from all who contributed.
You see? And that's Charlotte Green confirming she was heckled. She was heckled.
Humility, respect, and an eagerness to learn from all who contributed to the findings of.
And the reason she was heckled, was because of what she did. Was because what she did. Now, news is breaking. I spoke with Peter Brown this morning, who, along with a few others, had a meeting with senior members of the church. And if the Reverend Canon Jean Hurlston does not, if she does not stop sitting at that top table whilst corruption and criminality and the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of the town's children is validated, then what my understanding is, not only will Peter Brown and some of the others be protesting outside the church's headquarters in Manchester, but I'm starting to hear news that victims of the grooming gangs, young women, victims of the grooming gangs, will be protesting against the church's endorsement of the cover-up of the gang rape of the town's children. Because that's what this is. With the Reverend Canon Jean Hurlston sitting there the way she does, she is endorsing the cover-up of the gang rape of the town's children. And, well, let's see how the Church of England wants to deal with that when victims, young women, are protesting outside Church House or whatever it is on Deansgate, waving placards because of the behaviour of Jean Hurlston covering up, assisting the council to cover up the gang rape of the town's children. Okay, let's carry on with the analysis of the... No. One more thing. To give him his due. Dave Arnott, Councillor Dave Arnott, got in touch with me. This is what is submitted as a question. He had hoped to submit this question to Councillor Amanda Chadderton on Wednesday under the questions to the leader and the cabinet section of the full council. Unfortunately, time for this section had run out before his chance came around. He has therefore submitted the same question in writing, requesting a written response. The pertinent point of the question is: would the leader answer the following? Was the contract awarded to Bardock Limited awarded after a competitive tender exercise? Was the council officer or cabinet member responsible for signing off the contract aware at the time of any relationship between any officer or director of Bardock Limited and any current or past elected member of this council? Say simple yes or no. Simple yes or no to both. If you require a copy of the full question, I am happy to supply this with you, is what he sent to me. But what we've got there is a scandal brewing where Oldham Council have awarded the best part of £1 million to a company where Dr. Zahid Chauhan is both a director and the chief executive officer. And no declarations were made from what any of us can make out. I understand that the borough solicitor is being blamed, but the paperwork will prove whether or not the borough solicitor provided advice to a councillor not to declare his interest. Can't say it. I'm not a Paul Entwistle fan by the slightest, but I can't say it whatsoever. Okay, let's carry on with the council meeting. Let me bring it up. I've got about an hour and a bit or so, so hopefully I'll get through most of it. Okay.
We now move on to questions to Leader and Cabinet. This next part of the section is questions to Leader and Cabinet with a time limit of 30 minutes. I've had advance notice of questions. The Leader of the Liberal Democratic Group will ask his questions. Councillor Sykes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And before I do anything else, can I wish everybody an happy Christmas and all the best for New Year? And that's as nice as it gets. And even you, Brian, because I heard that with the eyes in the back of my head, all right? Or my ears in the back of the head. Madam Mayor, over recent days we've seen a massive government U-turn on housing targets. We in the Liberal Democrat group have said for a long time that mandatory top-down targets imposed by central government will not deliver the housing developments that we need and the people of Oldham need. All that top-down targets do is force councils to sacrifice good planning and open green spaces to meet an arbitrary number of units without considering local need. The Labour group themselves have always maintained that government targets were forcing them to concrete over green spaces and green belt, and that they had no choice, locked in as they were to these mandatory out-of-date targets. Well, clearly, Madam Mayor, following Mr Gove's announcement, that is no longer the case. Greater Manchester now has 2 years during which to rethink and reposition its housing strategy. And what we need to see is the power and resources to redevelop brownfield, ex-industrial and other non-green and green belt sites. What we need is for the decisions affecting our borough to be taken in our borough in a way that takes an account of local need. And we need assurances that this council will protect our green spaces, one of the uniquenesses of Oldham compared to the 9 other districts in Greater Manchester. So the question to the leader tonight is, will our administration now stop and pause and think again about the land grab to do with green belt and green spaces? Now we have no compulsory housing targets, or will there now be another excuse of why we have to build on green space and green belt? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I don't usually agree with Howard Sykes, but what he's making reference to is the Labour Party have always blamed the government, and yet it's not the government. It's the Places for Everyone scheme, or whatever it's called, that Andy Burnham had, that was ripped up because Stockport pulled out, refused. And what Oldham Council had done is handed over powers to Andy Burnham to decide on housing targets in Oldham. Now the government has said, has revised and said no stuff around Greenbelt and whatnot, and Amanda Chadderton has an opportunity to rip it up and withdraw. We should decide. It's my position. We in the town should decide where we build our houses. Yes, they can give us targets and all the rest of it, but we in the town should decide. But really what this has always been about in building on the green belt in Shaw, building on the green belt in Brighton, in Chadderton, in Saddleworth, is because the council is stuffed because it needs council tax revenue. So they build these big houses in these aspirational areas where there's minimal pull on public resources, so they maximise their profits so they can keep paying themselves, and the green spaces suffer. So that's what takes place. The question's very, very clear, and he needs to pull out. She needs to pull out. Amanda Chadderton needs to pull out of Andy Burnham's scheme. It's very simple as that. The only way you can take back control is by pulling out of Andy Burnham's scheme. Is she going to even make reference to that? Is she bugger?
Well, I mean, first off, it wasn't an excuse, because if it was an excuse, the government would have changed their mind. By changing their mind, obviously from pressure from their own Conservative councils, they've accepted that it was a top-down target, that we were forced into doing that, and out came GMSF and then P3. Now, like Councillor Sykes, I welcome the U-turn from the government. I'm cautious, given the government U-turns every 10 minutes, and until it's into law, you have to be cautious about that. But obviously, we have always said we don't want to build on Greenbelt. That should be the view of everybody. We should always progress a brownfield first policy. We should always be able to set our own targets based on our own housing need and the work that we do in this borough. And I do welcome the U-turn. It irritates me. What an absolute waste of time. What an absolute waste of public money over the past 3 years. I find it disgraceful that we've had to go through this for them to change their minds. But as I say, I welcome this. I've already begun the conversations with officers about what that means for us here, particularly in relation to the Greenbelt sites that are currently in the P3 proposal. The P3 proposal is currently before the inspectors. As it stands, though, there has been no change of law. It's unlikely to be a change of law, probably until next summer. That will continue going through the inspectors. We'll be raising that with the inspectors. And on Monday, for the first hearing this week, not the first hearing, the first hearing of the week this week, it was also raised with us by the inspectors that this has been brought up by government, but they recognise until a change of law comes about, they have to inspect what they see before and in terms of the current housing targets. But we are on with that work, and absolutely, you know, I don't want to build on Greenbelt, and we have to progress a brownfield first policy, so I welcome the change of mind from the government. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolute,
Question, Councillor Sam.
absolute nonsense. Do you hear that? She doesn't want to build on Greenbelt. She welcomes a change from the government. Well, actually, the P4E, the Places for Everyone scheme, is Andy Burnham's scheme. It's her mate's scheme. They all sit down together. Stockport, who are going to benefit from it, still withdrew. Oldham, under Amanda Chaddерton, is refusing to withdraw, and clearly they will try and get through as many Greenbelt schemes as possible in the interim. Did you see how she fudged the question there? It's simple. We withdraw from Andy Burnham's Greater Manchester Combined Authority plan of all in it together. No. We decide in our own town where we build our houses and where we don't, where we protect our green spaces. Withdraw. That has got nothing to do with the government because Stockport have already withdrawn. Stockport withdrew last year and said, no, we will decide where our houses are built according to local need. Amanda Chaddерton is refusing to do that and fudges the question. And it's not the government forcing this. It's Andy Burnham and Amanda Chaddерton's Labour Party controlled administration in Oldham who are happy to build on the green belt because it gives them revenue. It keeps them well fed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, thank the leader for her answer, and it will be a tragedy if our local plan is decided by something that the government already announced was out of date because the legislation doesn't catch up with what the will of the government, whatever you might think of it, is, and what a tragedy that will be. Madam Mayor, my second question tonight, I want to turn to our NHS services. Tomorrow, members of the Royal College of Nursing will strike for the first time in their 100-year plus history. Could there be a more damning indictment of this Conservative government, Madam Mayor? The decision to strike will have been an agonising one for RCM members. Nurses want to be at work. They care about patients. Nationally, the NHS is in free fall, and it is right that nurses are standing up for themselves and for the future of the health service. And can I say they have our full support on this side of the chamber. By now it is all too clear that Northern Care Alliance, that runs our hospitals, faces a myriad of complex and debilitating issues. The pandemic has caused a huge backlog across the board, not helped by IT failures earlier this year. In Oldham, we have some of the highest cancer waiting times in the country, with around 40% of patients not receiving an appointment within the 2-week time frame they should. I welcome the announcement of a multi-million-pound extension to Royal Oldham Hospital, and I just hope they can find the doctors, nurses and other health professionals and staff to populate it. Last month it was revealed that almost £80 million is needed to meet Northern Care Alliance's repair and maintenance budget. Repair and maintenance, that's not enhancement, repair and maintenance. Most frightening of all is that potential heart attack and stroke patients in Oldham are waiting half an hour longer for an ambulance than they should be. And throughout all this, Northern Care Alliance faces no direct scrutiny from elected members, which means our residents have no voice. Madam Mayor, if we simply sit on our hands and wait for the Conservatives to save our NHS, we'll be waiting in vain and for a very, very long time. These are big problems, but there's an onus on us as elected members to ask the tough questions. So will the leader join me tonight in calling for a joint scrutiny panel which will work with the Northern Care Alliance to make improvements where possible and to lobby government where it is needed, together with one voice, so people of Oldham get the health services they should deserve and health services on a par with others in Greater Manchester and elsewhere in England. Thank you.
Councillor Chaddерton.
Okay, so The obvious elephant in the room there is he wants Amanda Chadderton to work together with the council to hold these people to account. But absolutely nothing on Dr. Chauhan and his surgery at Royton or his surgery in Failsworth. Or the other surgery in Leeds also, very recently. Leeds, where the Lib Dems have 3 councillors, that's also been found, you know, horrific. I use the word horrific because I feel it is horrific. Horrific care quality commission inspection. Let's see what Amanda Chadderton had to say.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank Councillor Sykes as well for his question. I'm sure everybody should be worried about what's going on in public services at the moment in this country and about what the winter we're going to face. It's not just the nurses striking. The ambulance staff are also due to strike as well. And then that's without looking at the fact that teachers are about to be balloted to be striking as well. A perfect storm has been created by allowing 12 years of not properly funding and giving these people a proper wage. And unfortunately, it's come home to a roost for the current Conservative government. But more importantly, it's about how it affects us. Do you know, people aren't daft. People see they can't get an appointment with their GP. People know they are sat in A&E at Oldham Hospital for 10, 20, 30 hours. You know, our own MP was sat in A&E for 36 hours before they found him a bed at Oldham Hospital in 2022. And that's absolutely disgraceful. You know, we've seen examples of people dying in the back of hospitals. We can see social care is on its knees. There's over 1,000 people at the minute across Greater Manchester in beds who are ready to leave hospitals but can't because social care is not there to pick it up. A wholly unfunded and inadequate system, and it has created a perfect storm that unfortunately we're all paying for, and some very sick and vulnerable people are paying for with their lives at the moment. Now, I agree with the comments around some of the aspects around Northern Care Alliance and their performance issues, certainly in relation to the backlog. What I will say, this morning I was at the opening, or not the opening because it doesn't open until Monday, but our brand new community diagnostic centre on Salmon Fields. You know, it's one of 40 new community diagnostic centres across the country in terms of MRIs, PET scans. Do you know, these kind of things will be able to identify cancer, particularly breast, lung and brain cancer earlier, diagnose them quicker, people's life chances will be extended. You know, in that centre alone, in Royton, 30,000 patients will go through that centre over the next 12 months. It's open 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And what a facility here in Oldham. Do you know, for our residents at the moment, if they want a PET scan, they need to go to Wigan. And the same if they were Bury or Rochdale. Now, I'd have to look at further in terms of your scrutiny proposals, but I would welcome any opportunity where we can hold, not necessarily hold NCA to account, but actually move forward and drive forward improvements from that centre. Because if we do that, all of us are beneficiaries of that, because every single person in this room and nearly everybody in this town will at one point need NCA and the NHS. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So they get the questions beforehand. She knew what the question was, which is why she's prepped like that. But she fudges it. She hasn't had the chance to review the proposal properly. Nonsense. And of course she goes on an attack about all sorts of other stuff. And the place where she has the ability to make a difference, which is Royton, which is a councillor, she did not turn up to a meeting with the residents to do with Royton Medical Centre. And she refuses to criticise Royton Medical Centre, and she refuses to set up an action group of any form whatsoever to intervene in Royton Medical Centre. And yes, you heard that right. She alludes to the fact that she believes, or her perception it seems to be, that she felt Jim McMahon should have been given preferential treatment when going to A&E. Why? Why should Jim McMahon have received preferential treatment?
Thank you. The Conservative leader will ask his questions. Councillor Sheldon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I must apologise before I start with these two questions in that there's a little bit of duplication tonight, so please bear with me. My first question concerns planning matters which are of the greatest importance to residents all across our borough, namely places for everyone and Section 106 payments. May I also thank Councillor Sykes for raising some similar points. The Leader will no doubt already be aware that the Secretary of State for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities recently made a statement to the House of Commons in which he said, and I quote, "I do believe that the plan-making process for housing has to start with a number. This number should, however, be an advisory starting point, a guide that is not mandatory. This means that the housing need calculation made within Places for Everyone, agreed to by this administration, is now obsolete and inconsistent with national guidance. Though Keir Starmer has confirmed his support for mandatory housing targets, would Councillor Chadderton take this opportunity to break ranks with her party leader, do right by Oldham in following the lead of national guidance by this Conservative government and withdraw our borough from Places for Everyone? In addition to that, Section 106 payments owed by developers for community good are often held up with lengthy delays and internal discussion with the Council's planning department. Can the Leader encourage a new approach at the department where the money owed is swiftly chased up and put to good use in a timely fashion with proper consultation from elected members and local communities? Thank you.
Okay, you can see he's basically asking for a withdrawal from the Places for Everyone scheme. Andy Burnham. He wants us to exit Andy Burnham's scheme, which is what I want, actually, you know. So, will she? It's a simple yes or a no, isn't it? And the Section 106 is to do with money, to do with developments and stuff, and they're meant to put some money in, but the developers always mess around with that. Across the country they do. So good luck with that. Well, that's Sheldon for you, isn't he? Can't make one point and stay focused. He's got to... Nah. But let's see if she answers the first question. Does she answer the first question with a simple yes or no? We will withdraw from Places for Everyone. Because if she says no, that means she's still selling you out. It's simple. Absolutely simple. There's no ambiguity.
Councillor Chadderton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, in relation to the P3, I mean, Councillor Sheldon's got some fun, hasn't he, to tell me to follow the leader of my party, when for 3 years we've been asking him to break ranks with his own national party and actually go back to them and tell them not to impose mandatory housing targets on it that actually don't mean anything to Oldham because it's a top-down issue. As I responded to Councillor Sykes, I welcome the announcement from the government, but the reality is at the moment it's guidance. This government's a mess. Do you know, I hope it is into law next year, and we are preparing that it will go into law. And as I say, we're doing a full review of them Greenbelt sites. And I don't want to build on Greenbelt. I want to be able to set our own housing targets inside, knowing what our housing need is, and we pursue a brownfield first policy, and I'm not going to waver on that. Do you know, if the government allow, we will remove them and go forward without a Greenbelt allocation, as we wanted to all along. In terms of the Section 106 money...
Okay, let's pause that there. Did you see that fibber? Did you see her? She's trying to fudge it. She's got her tongue so far wedged up Andy Burnham's backside that she's willing to sell out every green space in across this borough. It's simple, and she's now got a reason to. Because the government have announced an intention. She's got a reason to say to Andy Burnham, sorry mate, we're pulling out until the government have decided what's going on. Or pass the legislation next year. She can pull out. She could pull out of the Places for Everyone scheme. Like that. Pull out. Save all the green spaces across the borough. And she's refusing and trying to twist it, but she's not bright enough to twist it, to manipulate the people of this town anymore. She's a disgrace. Amanda Chadderton is saying, it's the equivalent of saying, I know something is dangerous, but what's the comparison they can come up with? Seatbelts. I remember as a child, there was an intention for seatbelts. Mandatory to be brought in. Why would you wait before you clip your seatbelt in? Why would you wait for the law to be passed before you put your seatbelt on? She knows the law's coming in. She knows the legislation's coming in. She has a clear remit to pull out of the Places for Everyone scheme. Both main opposition parties support it. And she wants to make it party political, have snide digs, and not pull out of the Places for Everyone scheme, Andy Burnham scheme, and not protect our greenbelt sites. And that is Amanda Chadderton, leader of Oldham Council. That is done by choice. That is done by choice.
I assume it varies from each one, to be honest. I've never had an issue with Section 106 money. Obviously, you predominantly know from what goes on in your own ward, but I've had a number of new housing estates built in my ward in Royton. There hasn't been an issue around the drop down of Section 106 money. If there are particular issues or particular developers that Councillor Sheldon wants to highlight with me, then I can pick that up separately, but I don't think this is a universal issue across the council with all developers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sheldon, your second question, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the 29th of November, the Council's I Love Oldham website carried a piece announcing the opening of the new Community Diagnostic Centre in Salmon Fields, Royton. The new £4.5 million facility is excellent news for Royton and Oldham and will benefit up to 30,000 residents a year. When the planning application for this centre was heard a year ago, a representative of the Northern Care Alliance NHS Foundation Trust described the centre as one of the 40 first wave front-runner community diagnostic centres to be set up across the NHS in England. Would the leader of the council agree with those remarks from the NHS Trust? Confirm that this excellent initiative was part of the Conservative government's plans to open up.
Okay, I'm going to forward that because what Sheldon wants, he wants plaudits. He wants her to thank the Conservative government. Now, I'm all right with Graham Sheldon wanting the council leader to thank the Conservative government, providing he is willing to accept the failings of the Conservative government on its impact on the communities in this town and the borough and the country. But the Conservatives in this town, you see it with the old Conservatives' Facebook page, they want to take credit when it suits them, but when decisions adversely affect us, they try it and distance themselves. I can't be doing with that level of, I don't know, blinkered. It doesn't do anyone any favours.
To offer reassurance for the council and our residents. Our officers are undertaking daily inspections of temporary accommodation as part of welfare visits for the residents, and they're actively looking for signs of disrepair, including damp and mould. Temporary accommodation providers are also being written to ask to provide the same level of assurance of our other social housing partners. Our social care teams are raising this issue and discussing it at their safeguarding boards and their partnership meetings to check on our supported accommodation. And the council also plans to refresh the private sector stock condition survey to ensure landlords of private accommodation improve and bring their homes up to a safe standard. As a council, we're doing everything we can to make sure that Oldham residents don't have to endure what Awab and his family did do. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
So, sorry, I forwarded it too much, but this is to do with the first choice homes and the horrific instances of the quality of housing. Of course, it's nonsense because we've seen that young girl with the rat-infested house. We've seen that young girl with the rat-infested house.
Councillor Iqbal to ask a question.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask this question on behalf of Councillor Javid Iqbal. Residents have raised concerns
she's
about
woken up.
parking outside
She's
the First
woken up.
Choices Homes Depot on Primrose Bank for several years since it opened. Ward Council have asked the council to install double yellow lines, but for some reason no progress is being made. Could the Cabinet Member please give us an update on the progress, as we have had several near misses involving pedestrians and vehicles? Thank you.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Roberts to respond.
Thank you for the question. The request for possible parking restrictions outside the First Choice Homes Depot on Primrose Bank is currently being considered by the Council's traffic and parking teams. Ward members are being consulted on the initial proposals for the scheme ahead of public consultation. These proposals are being considered across a slightly wider area, including Magnolia Gardens, to ensure the overall result is effective and does not simply displace the issues to another community. This needs careful consideration with the existing parking restrictions in the area balanced with the needs of local residents. If supported by the local community, the proposed works could be delivered within the next 6 to 9 months, but this totally depends on...
Remember that question earlier about Royton and local people don't want to have yellow lines outside the house? Do you think it'd be any different here? No, of course it won't be any different here.
The outcome of the consultation.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Cosgrove to ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Please could the relevant Cabinet Member give an update on the work the Council is doing to address antisocial behaviour and the use of off-road bikes and unrestricted electric bikes in my ward of St James and the rest of the borough?
You can see tag team. This is important. This is a tag team with Josh Charters' question earlier. Do you see? It's all strategically done by the Labour Party. So I missed Brian Hobin's question, I think, so I'm just going to go back. My mistake. Brian.
And following on from Councillor Sykes, I would like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Before I go to my question, I'd like to... we seem to have had a Conservative government bash this afternoon, so I would like to congratulate the Labour administration because you must be very proud with the data from the 2021 census that shows that Oldham is the most deprived area in Greater Manchester, so well done to all the councillors over there.
Ouch.
And the question to the leader. We currently have a used housing waiting list, circa 7,000 I believe, in which our residents should get preference in the allocation of those. Could you advise us, are we allocating any housing stock to people from outside the borough with no attachment to the borough, and if so, how many? And are we looking after any of our ex-service personnel with providing homes? Thank you.
Councillor Chadderton.
Thank you. And can I just say, I mean, Councillor Hobin making light of child poverty, I find absolutely abhorrent, to be honest. And you know what? It's not this government.
I find absolutely abhorrent, you shameless woman, you claiming gang rape had not affected, did not destroy people's lives, the victims' lives. That's what I find abhorrent, Amanda Chaddерton, and that's what the town finds abhorrent. You disgraceful woman. You and your Labour Party council have been pimping poverty in this town for decades. You thrive off it. You encourage it. You facilitate it. So that you and your mates and the metropolitan fake liberal elite can thrive and prosper and get rich off it. That's what I find abhorrent, you disgusting, disgraceful woman.
It's not the Labour Party that have been in government for 12 years that have pushed us further and further into poverty, is it? It's not the Labour Party that have...
He's raising a point of order, and the mayor has got to intervene and stop her at that point, but she's refusing to because the mayor is complicit.
We're seeing the expansion of food banks into hundreds because people can't afford to eat anymore. So there's nothing about congratulations that...
I don't think Amanda Chadderton has ever not afforded to be able to eat.
Labour Party on this side, because we didn't do that. More children live in poverty today than when they did when I became a councillor 10 years ago. That's a stain on this government, and that's nothing to do with me. That is a government issue that's pushed more and more children in poverty, and you shouldn't be making light of the fact that kids can't afford to eat. In relation to the housing allocations policy, I'll ensure I'll send round a briefing in terms of how we allocate housing. Thank you.
Do you see that? In terms of the housing allocations policy, she'll send round a briefing. That woman is an absolute... That's exactly what she is, mate. That's exactly what she is. She is a horrible excuse for a human being. And she is a disgusting woman. Outrageous behaviour from a woman who had the audacity to claim that being gang raped did not destroy lives. Disgraceful woman. I hope she makes you proud, Royton. Royton South, I don't know what's in your water over there, but you've got her and the Bashforths. I hope they make you proud.
And the seals are clapping.
And the seals are clapping. There you go.
No need for that, Brian.
Why? Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Who are you, Mayor, to say there's no need for that after what? The abuse he had? Where was your gob then, you stupid imbecile? So it's okay for him to be abused, but when he responds, you intervene. What else do you expect from a mayor, a white woman grandma from Failsworth, who's complicit in the cover-up of the gang rape of white children because it benefits her political party? What else do you expect from a woman like that?
Of the work that's done by the off-road policing team, the partnership approach, and the fact that the council is working with...
And mould. Temporary accommodation providers are also being admitted to ask to provide the same level of assurance of our other social housing partners.
That's the question that we had in public questions, and so I think I'd refer Councillor Cosgrove to that in terms of the work that's done by the off-road policing team, the partnership approach, and the fact that the council is working with partners to take other action that might be appropriate.
Sorry, we just get into the bit we need. Just give me a second. Now we go. Here we go.
I'll call on Councillor Lancaster to ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Knowing how important the issue is to my ward constituents, I have raised road safety in this chamber several times already since my election, and have been proud to support effective motions proposed by my Conservative colleagues, Councillors Arnott and Byrne, in this policy area. I would like to ask a question, please, about the difficulties in securing road safety interventions from the Council's Highways Department. primarily as a result of overly stringent adherence to narrow criteria. There have long been resident calls for speed cameras to be introduced to cover the crossroads in Denshaw Village Centre, which I would of course support. Despite the most recent survey recording speeds well in excess of twice the 30-mile-an-hour limit, these calls have been quashed by OMBC, who continually cite DFT and TFGM guidelines. Other local authorities, however, have managed to act of their own accord. A ward constituent has highlighted to me the example of Leicestershire County Council, who have used the discretionary powers available to them through the Road Traffic Act of 1991 to introduce 7 average speed camera trials, and I would be happy to provide more detail of this example in writing following the meeting. At another location in my ward, the Sound Rose Hill Junction in Delph, visibility of oncoming traffic is poor, and motorists and pedestrians alike could be assisted by the erection of a street mirror. However, again, my requests have been refused on the basis that an insufficient majority of the 6-point criteria specified by the Greater Manchester authorities cannot be met. So my question is this: can the administration please have a serious rethink about road safety, adopt a proactive common sense approach for the betterment of the whole borough, and in the spirit of Councillor Byrne's motion from the September meeting, be brave enough to use its powers independently? Thank you.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Roberts to respond.
Thank you for your question. In response to the complaints about vehicle speeds in Denshaw, automatic traffic counts were commissioned which provided evidence about the actual speeds of vehicles in the area, and this showed that speeds were not excessive. However, new surveys have been commissioned for early 2023, given recent concerns escalating again. As part of the response to these concerns, the Council has replaced the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit terminal signs with new highly visible signs, and have also erected speed toolkit signs to ensure drivers are reminded of the speed limit. I'm advised that the old and faulty 30-mile-per-hour vehicle-activated sign is due for replacement as part of a borough-wide replacement scheme. All safety cameras within Greater Manchester are deployed by Greater Manchester Police in partnership with the 10 Greater Manchester boroughs, and all costs associated with the effective running and enforcement of the cameras are shared and kept to the minimum. Any decision to locate a fixed speed safety camera is based on the number of speed-related collisions that have occurred within the immediate area. This criteria is set by the Department for Transport. With regards to the request for a speed camera on the A672 Rippington Road, the collision data shows there have not been any serious speed-related collisions recorded within the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit through Denshaw, so it does not meet the criteria. Finally, with regards to installing mirrors on the highway to improve road safety, these are currently in a trial period to assess the impact of their introduction and reduction in road traffic collisions. Once the monitoring period has ended, a decision will be taken on whether mirrors provide the desired effect and should therefore be used at other sites across the borough.
Okay, so she's read a pre-prepared answer there by one of her policy officers. But what you've got to understand there is the question he was asking, Councillor Lancaster was asking, was in other parts of the country, they ignore the guidance and they're proactive. You have the remit to ignore the guidance. It's not set in stone. If you believe there's a risk there, you can do it. And what she's admitted to, what Hannah Roberts has just admitted to there, is that in the same way we in Oldham are not, don't have the power to decide where we build our houses and where we don't build our houses. Likewise, we don't have the power to decide where we put up speed cameras and where we don't put up speed cameras, because that's decided by Greater Manchester. So there you go. There you go. Why bother with the council? Just hand it all over to Andy Burnham. Get rid of all of them. Get rid of all the opposition, because they have no say on anything, as we're just about to find out.
Liberal Democrat question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a question with regards to climate change. So tuning in, thank you.
Sorry, I'm not interested. I'm not interested to listen to Sam Al-Hamdani's nonsense about climate change.
So notes and minutes of the Cabinet are circulated.
Have we got Cabinet minutes?
They don't know if they've got the minutes of the meetings now.
I do apologise. Fine, yeah, move, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Javan.
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Do any members who are not Cabinet members wish to ask a question on the Cabinet minutes?
You should do. Let's see.
Anybody else? Councillor Hindle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know in the Cabinet minutes that 8 items were passed. I'd just like to know, is there ever any challenge to these items, or is it just a box-ticking exercise by a subservient Cabinet? I find it amazing that a meeting with such important issues lasts only 24 minutes.
So the Cabinet, and it's a cutting observation by Councillor Hindle from the Failsworth Independent Party. The Cabinet is where all the main decisions are made. This is just fair to the real decisions. Cabinet style is that 9 of them sit down. Amanda Chadderton chooses her Cabinet, and they're all Labour, and they all decide what happens. They all get paid extra and all the rest of that for the portfolios they hold. 9 decisions were made in a full meeting. 9 decisions were made in a full meeting, in a Cabinet meeting, including welcome, introductions, closing meeting, all the rest of it, in 24 minutes. That's less than 3 minutes per decision. 2 minutes per decision. If you lose 3 minutes at the beginning of starting the meeting, welcome and apologies, and 3 minutes closing and all the rest of the matters arising and stuff. Less than 2 minutes. 2 minutes. That's what you're worth, people. This is the contempt they hold you with. Some of the most important decisions in this town are being approved at a Cabinet committee. And each decision averages about 2 minutes. I'm ready for some outrage. Are you?
Thank you.
Councillor Chadderton.
The Cabinet sometimes have public... There is a whole process for this. Like, you know, Councillor Hindle can look at about how we do that. The reality is, once it gets to Cabinet, an awful lot of work has already gone into that, and that's where the challenging things is. So once it gets to Cabinet, it's often changed from its first iteration. But there is a process of challenging Cabinet, often through public questions, which people can take advantage of if they wish. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
So nothing whatsoever, but people can take advantage of public questions. How many of you read Cabinet meetings, minutes, and understand the complexities of those documents? It's like me saying to my daughter, you can have steak and chips and tiramisu for your tea tonight if you cook it yourself. She's 8 years old. And can you see the arrogance on her face and the contempt? Yes, mate. And yeah, you're right. The absolutely derogatory attitude. The point is, you're making decisions in there in under 2 minutes per agenda item, per serious issues at Cabinet. This is not a functioning democracy. This is not at all, in any way, shape or form, a functioning democracy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question and observation, and I'll do them both at the same time, is on Page 45. Sorry, I don't know what page that is on your copy, Madam Mayor. But it's minute 8. My question relates to that item 8 on page 45. Future contracting tender arrangements for residential and dual registered care homes. The news that this council is going...
Ignore that. I ain't got time for any of that. And I ain't got time for mush stack anyway. Let's see what Dave Arnott had to say.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Merry Christmas, everyone. I get the good ones. Madam Mayor, this amendment seeks to balance the Labour motion. As expected, the motion presented by the administration is phrased...
Ignore that. It's all to do with the Labour Party passing a motion, writing to the government. It's one of those bullshit things. It lasts for about half an hour. Complete waste of time.
Is also being felt in children's services.
There you go. See? That's right to the government. The Conservatives usually get angry at this because they feel they take it personally.
The Conservative motion. 15 minutes to each opposition motion, and we will be keeping within those time limits. I will call on Councillor Woodbine to move and Councillor Byrne to second the motion. Councillor Woodbine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just wait for Councillor Lancaster to leave the room.
Sorry, so what you've missed is 40 odd minutes, half an hour, 40 odd minutes of the Labour Party backslapping, getting the Chief Executive to write to the government to whinge about something. It's what they specialise at, and they really enjoy it.
Thank you. I rise with a great sense of pride to propose this motion, the resolutions of which I hope will have the support of full council. Public service is something all of us in this chamber share a strong passion for. However, there are no greater servants to our community and to this country than those who have served and are still serving in His Majesty's Armed Forces. During my time working for the Royal British Legion, I met with, supported where possible, and listened to the stories of primarily veterans, but also serving personnel from across the northern region. Being a councillor has its challenges, but I can say the events in this chamber are not in any way comparable to the realities of conflict they have witnessed, not only abroad, but also at home. While many of the memories are distant from decades ago, they are as emotive and meaningful in the modern day. What I also saw was the positive impact that the campaigns of the Royal British Legion have had over many years in advocating for, and in some cases forcing change for the benefit of our armed forces community. The Legion is truly the best of British, as our Director General always called it, but it relies completely on the cooperation not just of His Majesty's Government in Westminster, but of the countless councils across the regions and nations.
Oh, get on with it and stop rocking around.
Well, I hope the support of colleagues from across the political spectrum will be given freely for this proposal. This shouldn't be a choice for us, it should be a matter of course. There are 5,941 veterans across our boroughs communities, and it is our duty to take these actions for their sake, for the families of those still serving, and of those who unfortunately made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms. There are some positive points to raise already. For example, it is positive that 4 of our health centres, according to the Royal College of General Practitioners, hold the accreditation for being veteran friendly, meaning they are 84% more likely to understand the needs of veterans in their care. It is positive.
I've enough of him. The motion's about supporting veterans.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Simple.
We support our veterans once a year when we buy poppies. And once November's gone, I think we tend to forget a lot of them until the next time. I want you to support this motion because it makes us look at veterans for the whole of the year. The council have already started with certain certain...
This is just abysmal. It is important, by the way. What they're trying to do is abysmal, is important. But the manner in which Woodvine, and now this, whatever she is, go about it is just abysmal, because they just completely lose the point. Veterans pensions, veterans compensation, the council consider as income, and so they don't get the support they should do. It's wrong. It's fundamentally wrong. And there's a whole host of stuff around data collection on veterans that doesn't happen. If you're black, you get data collected on you to identify whether you're vulnerable or being exploited. If you're gay, you get data collected on you. If you're a woman, you get data collected on you. But if you're a veteran, you don't get data collected in the same way. And the statistics show that they're discriminated against. Okay? And the council has the power, the council has the authority and the power and the means and the resources to intervene and support the nearly 6,000 veterans in this town. And prioritise them as and when it's needed. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. If there was a housing list, I'd have veterans at the top of it and their families at the top of it because of what they've done. Not this council. But what they do is genuinely shocking.
Things like training is very important with council staff. And I'm to encourage them to, where they want to support this, because what we can do in this council with our employees could be as...
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am very happy to be able to support this motion on behalf of the Liberal Democrat group. The military covenant should be a principled pact that our government honours with all those who serve in our military on our behalf. Too often in recent years, governments have let down veterans at the times that they needed help the most. And the implementation of these recommendations will mean that at least the Borough of Oldham tries to do its part in holding up its end of a sacred promise. Thank you,
Well, there you go. I don't like the guy. I agree with him. Sacred promise. Support him.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move that this motion is referred to Policy Overview and Scrutiny Committee on the basis that much of what is requested in this motion is already delivered by the Council. And
It's a complete lie, and what she wants to do is not vote on it. So the first move that Hannah Roberts is doing once she's back in the council chamber is to block a vote supporting veterans in this town. She doesn't want her Labour Party colleagues to have to vote to block it, so she wants to shift it somewhere else so it's not voted on. That is what Hannah Roberts from Delft is doing. Right here from the Labour Party. Attempting to block the supporting of veterans in our town. How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel?
ask the committee to review current policy and if it identifies any gaps, come back with recommendations so that council policy can be updated and ensure that we are implementing in full our obligations to veterans, the armed forces and under the Armed Forces Covenant. And also for the committee to assess what can be delivered within current budgets, as the council cannot be committed to unfunded expenditure by a motion at council.
So there you go. We can't afford to support veterans. You should be utterly ashamed, Tracy, because I am. I'm utterly ashamed as an Oldhamer that my council, when it came to it, to simply vote to support veterans and their families, kicked it into the long grass, and the truth came out, we don't want to spend our money on it. But we know what's worse here. What's worse here, and what she's done. There's no point the opposition being in the council chamber if their motions aren't even voted on? There's no point of them being in the council chamber if their motions aren't voted on. And this isn't a contentious motion, is it? Heck, even the Lib Dems agreed with it. It's a motion saying it's a sacred duty to serve and protect those who protected us. Shameful. Shameful. And that's Councillor Hannah Roberts.
Thank you. Is that seconded, Madam Mayor? Recommended.
And look at that. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Amanda Chadderton seconded the amendment. The leader of the council has decided that veterans don't matter. The armed forces, those who serve this country, do not matter. That's the leader of the council. Like that, they blocked the vote, the opposition motion. Let's kick it to a committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's for reasons like this that I'm truly sorry to see Councillor Roberts back on the council. This is quite ridiculous. All of the resolutions in the motion are not currently provided by the council, and that's been researched, and we've done incredible research. The Royal British Legion has fact-checked it, and they have an incredible campaigns team which have looked at all the councils in the country, and these have been checked. And the council is not providing these services. So it's quite simple. There's nothing the Overview and Policy Scrutiny Committee can do that has not already been researched. It's been done for them. So I don't support that, but I appreciate the Labour group control the council and they'll do whatever they want, so that's fine.
Can we vote on Councillor Roberts' recommendation? Those in favour?
I'd recorded vote that.
Those
I'd
against?
record vote that.
Abstentions? It's carried. Thank you.
Of course it's carried. Of course it's carried. They don't care.
Motion 2. I call on Councillor H. Gloucester to move and Councillor Williamson to second. Councillor Gloucester. Hazel.
As we enter one of the earliest cold weather spells experienced since 2010.
So I can't be bothered with this. So what she wants is stuff, not that I don't care about it, of course I do, but she wants free meals, school meals and all the rest of it over Christmas. And schools to open up the kitchens and stuff for children. Of course. I'm all for it. Schools, I go and pick my daughter up today and they close today for Friday. What's the point of putting forward a motion on a Wednesday when schools close on a Friday? Who's going to go and open those schools over Christmas? I bet Hazel and her mates aren't. Who's going to pay the staff? None of them. Nah. Just grandstanding.
And it does include a community engagement team to reach vulnerable people on the doorstep. And I
No, she's talking nonsense. This bit is funny
just
because
want
she's
to
talking
highlight
nonsense.
that in November last month, we knocked on the doors of 1,615 people. So we are knocking on people's
No, you're
doors
not
and
knocking
getting
on
out
doors.
there, making sure that vulnerable
No, you're not.
people are contacted.
No,
But
you're
I
not.
understand why that is a priority to,
No, you're
to
not.
reach people who don't have internet access. So essentially, this is what our amendment pertains to. So we agree.
So
with
what they're doing
Councillor
here
Gloucester and Williams.
is they're amending their motion. So whatever the Lib Dem motion was, the Labour Party aren't happy with it, so they're changing it. And they can do what they want because they're in control. So the Conservative motion, they've thrown away to a committee. And the Lib Dem motion, they're not voting on it, they're changing it. So what you vote on is what the Labour Party have changed it to.
And that the situation is dire. We agree that we need to be the safety net for our residents, but we just want to underline that...
And there's a lot of pressure on
Here's Jim McMahon's
household
mate.
income with the rise of the price of goods. And this has been because of the decisions a couple of months ago taken by the Tory government. That
Blame the Tory government, see? Wants to be an MP.
England base rate has gone up. We have seen mortgages are
properly spent, and finally, it's like,
Here's
well,
Piffy and
you know what? I just think it's not properly been thought through. The amendment as a whole, and I couldn't support that because you know what? Some people are genuinely embarrassed to go for help.
Yeah.
And when you say, oh yeah, go online and fill out a form, well, they can't because they're probably struggling to pay for their utility bills. They're probably struggling to pay for their online bills. And that's the thing.
Louis Hamlet.
You know, you say that they've had 436 requests. If you do more of the doorstep engagement work, you'd actually find you'll get a lot higher than that. But the thing is that that's the issue, is the fact that you tell them to go online. And the district support work's even poorer. But there you go. That's me rant. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to point out that I'm aware that every household in the borough has had a leaflet through the door which contains information about...
Every household in the borough has had a leaflet through the door. What more do you want? You've had a leaflet. You've had a leaflet. Hannah Roberts and the Labour Council have given you a leaflet.
What is in the We Can Help offer and included...
And the We Can Help offer is a scam. I went through it yesterday. It's a scam. £3 million, and most of the money has been siphoned up back into the council and its partners to fund themselves. You fill in a form and apply for something so you can go into Oldham Community Leisure to have a shower. Excuse me, could I have a form, please? Because I can't afford to have a shower at home. There's a queue of people coming in and around me. Oh, and here's a special pass. Might as well wear an orange boiler suit so everyone can see you're too poor to be able to have a shower at home. That is Oldham Council's strategy.
Prominently in that, and prominently, I would hope that every member in here is aware as well, is the council's helpline, which has been the same helpline that we've had through COVID and following. And if people didn't interrupt you, and if people ring that helpline, they will get not only help with whatever their initial presenting problem is, but also people who are trained to probe and to ask questions and to see whether or not there are other issues and things that the council can help with.
What are you going to help with?
I just think that to run down what we are trying to do in circumstances which everybody agrees are really, really difficult for far too many of our fellow residents, it just isn't helpful. And if we all do have access to the council's website, we do all have provided for us a laptop, which means that we're able to access the council information. It does incidentally include the council's allocation.
On this report at this meeting. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Well, let's see what she had to say.
It's a point of clarification because I don't want the Liberal Democrats spreading misinformation, do I? The engagement team door knock every single...
So she thinks it's funny. Amanda Chadderton thinks people starving is funny.
Ward, and they have been doing throughout the pandemic. If Councillor Gloucester wishes...
No, hold on. Let's hear what she said again. Sorry, give me a second.
Second report, subject to the third line on page 68, just say CO5 rather than CO4. Councillor Chadderton to move.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I understand after taking advice, I need to propose that Council Procedure Rule 13.1 is suspended to allow an amendment.
Sorry, I've moved it too far forward.
To be proposed on this report at this meeting. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, can I just say, so a point of clarification, because I don't want the Liberal Democrats spreading misinformation, do I? The engagement team door knock every single ward, and they have been doing throughout the pandemic. If Councillor Gloucester wishes to speak to a district coordinator in the ward, each of the, I don't know what that is, each of the door knocking sessions that are done per ward, everything is captured, the number of people they speak to, and the top 5 queries as well. That is all held within the district service of Councillor Gloucester, so if she wishes to have that in relation to her own ward, then speak to a district coordinator, and it's freely available. Thank you.
Steve, can you see the contempt?
Councillor Munro, do you wish to reply?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Can you hear the word mushrooms?
Does Council agree with the amendment? Those in favour?
So they've changed it.
Those against?
They've ignored what the Liberal Democrats wanted. Ignored it.
Abstentions? The amendment is carried.
So both motions failed because they weren't even voted on. Both motions weren't even voted on.
On the motion as amended. Councillor Gloucester wish to reply? No.
No point.
Does
No point.
Council agree the motion as amended? Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried with amendment. Item 12, which is actions from the Council. I call on Councillor Chadderton to move and Councillor Sheldon to second the report. Since the agenda was published, a response has been received from a government department on the regulation of HMO resolution, which has been circulated to all members. So, Councillor Chadderton.
Move, Madam Mayor.
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Wish to speak? Does Council agree the recommendations as detailed within the report?
They don't even tell you what the report's about. Do you see?
Item
Do you see?
13, which is
Do you
the
see?
polling district review.
They just went through it.
I call on Councillor Chadderton to move and Councillor Taylor to second report, subject to the third line on page 68 should say CO5 rather than CO4. Councillor Chadderton to move.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I understand after taking
You see?
advice, I need to propose that Council Procedure Rule 13.1 is suspended to allow an amendment to be proposed
They just
on this
vote it
report at this
through
meeting.
at a public meeting without even telling you what the agenda really is about or what the issue is. They just vote it through, railroad it through.
Agreed. Thank you. Does any member wish to speak? Councillor Jabbar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the amendment the leader was talking about, I'm moving that. The amendment is that we reject the proposal that District CO5 be split between CO3 and CO6, and the proposed approval that CO5 be retained and the polling place mobile on Broome Street to be unchanged. The proposed...
This is Abdul Jabbar, who won an election that was taken to court. The case didn't go forward, but the High Court judge decided there was a case. He won by 71 votes. There was allegations of fraud and corruption. And the Chief Executive of Oldham Council acknowledged that her council had not played by the rules, but apparently it had not been enough to interfere in an election that Abdul Jabbar won by 71 votes. Abdul Jabbar is the councillor for Coldus. Coldus is infamous for electoral fraud and corruption. He's not happy with some of the postal wards. You know, some of the wards, polling stations, so clearly wants them where he wants them.
The proposed revised list for Coldus is circulated.
See?
This means that the subsequent polling places in Coldus will be remain unchanged. All polling station numbers from 26 will then be renumbered, meaning that the total number of polling stations will be 120. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
See?
Councillor Holbin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I see in the amendment, I don't understand, there's no reason why Councillor Jabbar wants it on there. I just wondered what was the reason for it. There's all the details, but no reason for not wanting it.
Councillor Jabbar.
What's the reason, Jabbar?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this polling station, Madam Mayor, is located in the West Street State. At this moment in time, it has a reduced number from previously because of the two tower blocks being removed. But on the location of the two tower blocks, a new property has been built, and they will be complete by December.
The new properties being built on the tower block location are currency. I've gone through it before. Vote for me, get me 100 votes, hand over your postal votes, and we will get you up the housing list. And the new properties, only the cartel generals and their families get to those new properties. There's a street just behind the Millennium Centre in Coldust, where the entire street has effectively been the recreation of a village in Bangladesh, because all of them got all of the houses. Or pretty much all of the houses. They've recreated a village in social housing. Do you think that went off the ranking, the legitimate ranking? And if you're a veteran, forget it, mate, because you don't count. So there'll be new houses there.
23. So we will have a very large number of people back in the polling station. And that's the reason why
We'll have a very large number of people back in the polling station who know they need to vote Labour because we looked after them. Isn't that right, Jabber?
we're asking for it to be there, Madam Mayor. Also, it's quite a close-knit community, which is...
Close-knit community? It's quite a close-knit community. Oh. Oh. It's quite a close-knit community.
Always had a polling station in the area. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Tay, you did second the report. No? Right.
Oh, she don't know what she's doing.
So,
Bent Whistle's got to intervene.
Any more members wish to speak? Right. So, does Council agree the recommended...
Do I need to move it?
Oh, ignore that nonsense.
Move, Madam Mayor. Move as amended.
As amended.
Seconded as amended, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
All three of them are fantastic representatives of this borough, and combined they've raised thousands of pounds for charity here in Oldham and around the world. Ibi Youssef, Hannah Mia and Kira Arnold are wonderful examples to all of us, and I'm sure everybody in the chamber agrees, and that they are deserving of the
leader, and look forward to one of the more pleasant things we'll do at our next meeting, which will be present these three individuals with well-deserved awards. Thank you.
Does Council agree the recommendations as detailed?
Excuse me, Madam Mayor. Can I please speak on that?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm happy to support the nominations that have come forward. They're all worthy individuals, but I was just curious for future years. Is there some device by which elected members can make nominations to be considered across the board? Because I'm sure we could all
see, there you go. Yeah.
Individuals that would be worthy of this from our respective
Who picks who gets the awards? Who picks?
Yeah, you do that through your group leader. Thank you. So does Council agree the recommendations? Agreed. Thank you. So item 17, the Treasury Management Mid-Year Review 2022.
Remember, this is the one where the collapsed.
Councillor Jabbar to move and Councillor Chadderton to second.
No discussion. This is your credit card bill being slapped.
Does any
Your credit card, but the council's credit limit has been slashed, and they've had to reprofile tens of millions of pounds because all of the council's capital property plans are nowhere near running on schedule. No discussion whatsoever, put in right at the end.
member wish to speak? Does Council agree the recommendations as detailed within the report? Thank you. And that concludes the business for this
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Where's that come from?
This is the bit I wanted. Point of order, Madam Mayor, from brave Mark Wilkinson, right at the end.
Oh, Councillor Wilkinson.
Madam Mayor, thank you for allowing me just 1 minute, please. I've been informed today that there's been many members of the public who have not been allowed inside the council building.
Excuse me, we're speaking on. It was concluded that we voted for item 17. So.
I'm sorry, I thought you'd finished with business and it was about to close, and there's a point I want to make.
I am closing the business.
Right, well, there's a point I'd like to make, please, Madam Mayor, and it's very important.
So
There's been several...
You said point of order.
Yes.
For what?
Point of order to get your attention to bring this to your notice.
That's not a point of order.
Is it a point of information? Can I bring something to your attention that I think is important?
Meeting's finished. Meeting's finished.
Well, I don't think it should finish. I don't think it should finish because there's members of the public who can't get into this council meeting. This lady who's here on her own today, I don't know her from Adam, but she must have passed an enhanced DBS check. People are not being allowed in the chambers, and it's wrong.
Sorry,
it's
Madam,
a democracy.
It's
not a pick and choose on who you can have in. I've been in prison. I've been in prisons that have got less security than this.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now close the meeting. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Look at them. Look at them. Look at them. Look at them. Look at Elizabeth Drogan. Look at them.
You don't want to hear it.
Look at them. Look at their faces.
I'm happy to support the nominations that have come forward. They're all
Sorry, I'm going to turn the sound down whilst this plays out.
Is there some device by which
but you look at their faces. Look at dirty Harry Catherall's
across
face.
the board, because I'm sure we could all think of individuals that would be worthy of this from our respective communities that we.
Look at dirty Harold Catherall's face. Look at Ben Whistle. Look at Elizabeth Drogan. Look at them. Just look at them. This is not democracy. Those individuals there should be in prison. When the government come in, Elizabeth Drogan, you are going to go to prison. Paul Bentwhistle should be in prison. That mayor, well, should be probably dead by the time the government come in. And Harry Catherall should be chased out of this town.
I've been in prison.
Harry Hitler. There's a reason why the people call him Hitler. And this is why you can see him there. You can see him there preventing the public from attending the meetings. Look at them. Outrageous. Preventing the public from attending council meetings.
You don't want to hear it.
Making it almost impossible for members of the public to attend council meetings. These are the actions of Harry Catherall, Paul Bentwhistle and Elizabeth Drogan, aided by Amanda Chaddерton and the Mayor. And her Labour Party administration. And Councillor Wilkinson should be applauded because he will now be in trouble. And he'll be in trouble because he stood up for every one of you. He had the courage to stand up for every one of you, and now he will get in trouble for it. There'll be a standards complaint and all sorts of other stuff. I've got to go and pick my daughter up. I wanted to finish that meeting. I wanted to get that out of the way. I will see those of you who I see. I'll see you on Sunday for what will be the last Recusant 9 transmission. We've not got to the funding target, I'm afraid. And I don't think over the next 2 days we'll get to the funding target. We are £248 a month below our minimum target. And I won't continue doing this work without minimum wage. So best of luck to all of you who take value in my work and don't contribute. You deserve the town you get.
Fear them. Do not fear any of them.